Hi and welcome back to another one of these lovely episodes. Now today I wanted to do a little bit of color. I don't remember how much we've covered of the color stuff, but I wanted to start off with looking at the colors and then trying to apply them. The basics of color in HTML and basically in websites revolve around this thing called hex color codes. And hex color codes start with a hash and then have a number of numbers behind it. Sometimes the numbers turn into letters, and that basically is a signifier of a larger number than what we have with just the digits. And so therefore when you see something like hash FF0000, that's the color red. You can see the equivalent here of the red, green, blue values being set to 255 on the red scale. That's really what we're saying here. If you're used to seeing this in Photoshop and you have something like this, then you're used to being able to, grab a color picker, go over here and see that this particular color that we picked has, a red value here of 194, green value of that, and that's your blue value. So if we change these to 0 and 0 and 255, that is basically the maximum that we can go on the slider. So as we go down, the red value goes down. As we go across, we start getting the green and the blue. If we shift over the hue a little bit, you can start seeing those numbers and those values change. The thing that you might not have noticed in Photoshop is that the number down here is your hex value. So this is, again going back to red, this is your FF0000. This is your full-blown red. This is your full-blown blue. And then somewhere here, I went past it, is your full-blown green. So these are all the different values that we can make out of these three colors. And so as you mess around here and you discover a color you like, let's say this one, then your hex value for that is that particular color. So for use for that color, you'd go over the Dreamweaver, go to our elephants page, which is this one, find this box. Remember that we have a content bit of CSS that defines this, and so we would go, well, the background color here that we set was FBFB. If I change that to that magic color that we just discovered, then the whole box turns to that purple color. And that's, it's not an accident, it's specific, it's exactly the color we found, and it's been applied to that specific element on the page. So those are the things that you kind of go and explore. Once you find the color you like, grab the hex value, and off you go. We have also been using words. And when I say words, we could go and say that the background color is going to be red. And you can see that there's some values that Dreamweaver knows about. So there's red, Indian red, medium violet red, pale violet red. These are all colors that contain the word red. So if we go to orange red, and we go up the top, that's your orange red. Now again, where do these colors come from? They've all been predefined. If you go and you just Google this, you can see that there's an explanation of all the different color names by the associated names here. Shows you the hex value and shows you the color. So as you scroll through these, you'll see all those different colors in action. You can also look at the colors through the hex value, so sort them by hex. And you can see how all of these increase in blue, this one increases in green, and then you start mixing them and getting all these different shades. There's a whole history lesson on web colors. If you're interested, go to the Wikipedia section, explore the colors in here. They'll tell you the difference between the 3-digit version and the 6-digit version, which is basically the same, but it's just shorthand. And it talks about how things are getting converted, the range that they get converted at, etc. So if you really need the specifics, go there. But the gist of it is basically that by having these 255 or 256 basically color values, we get these 16 million color combinations. And that's pretty much what we can see or differentiate with our eyes, so everyone's kind of happy with that being what the screen displays, as well as what the hex values allow you to do. So very different from CMYK colors, which you're used to, but these are RGB colors and we represent them through these hexadecimal values, which we see there. So then there's this site, which is also great, the HTML color codes. On here, you could basically explore as if you were in Photoshop, but the cool thing about it is every single time you find a color that you like, you can just assign it to your little widgets here, and then when you kind of save them all off, you can say, oh, these are the colors I've picked. I'm going to download them, and it gives you the hex values, or it sets up your CSS for you already, and you can just copy and paste that over the Dreamweaver, and then what you get is all of these different colors being available for you to use as classes, which we haven't really talked about. But the idea behind it is that, hey, here are your colors. Here are the colors that you just discovered on this other website. And once you have them, you can use them and you can do cool things with them. I'm going to delete that, but that's the general idea around color. So now we're just going to go back to what we were doing here, and what I wanted to just point out is that we still haven't styled this, and I'm actually not happy with what we did in terms of calling it home, because really I think it's the same as the title. It needs to be amazing animals. That's what that should be. I think it shouldn't be a paragraph, because I don't want that to really be a paragraph. I want that to be a div for the entire page. I want that div to be called something. I'm just going to call it menu, just because I don't want to call it nav, and I don't want to type navigation. Not while I'm recording, and I can make a typo. And therefore we now have a div. Functionally it still looks the same, but now I've got that box behind it. Now that I have that box behind it, I can go over to my style CSS code. I can now go and say, look, I have this thing called a menu. In the menu I want to have a background color. For the moment I'll start with white, and then when I do that it fills in the space. And then I can also go and say, look, I do want to also have some padding, about 20 pixels around this whole thing, which allows me to have a bit more space. And then I remember that I have that gap, which I don't want. That gap does not come from the menu, that comes from the body. So I go in here and I say margin is 0 pixels to get rid of that gap. So now that's taking up that space. Again, it's as per the internal sketch of having that little thing at the top. And I've just changed my mind from the sketch. I don't want that to be home. I want that to say amazing animals. I actually want it to be more like this than what we had on the sketch. And what I'm going to do is just start to work on that. So we go back in here and we realize that the H1 has a font family of that, which is what we used, as well as the uppercase transform. So I'm going to copy that into the menu as well. And if you have a look at that, we start seeing the same kind of result. If I go to live, there it is. But it's still purple and it's still underlined. And this is where we get into some pseudo classes. And pseudo classes are very weird, but we're going to make sense of them, so don't worry. And when we say something like hash menu A, we're talking about A tags that are within the menu. And those are, if you just bear with me, they're these links that we have. So this is the amazing animals link that we have. And what I want to do is I want to go in here and say, look, I like that, that's cool and it's awesome, but I actually want it to be a different color. So when we go back to colors and we say what kind of color could it be, well, I'm going to be lazy and I'm going to use the orange that we just crafted. So we like this orange red color, so I'm just going to grab that. But I'm also not going to make it the background color, I'm going to make it the foreground color, which is the font color. Save that, go back to the design view, and there it is. Now, I also want to get rid of this underline, which is basically a text decoration. And what I want to do, with the text decoration, let's fix this. This is what I get from using this rather than typing it. What I want to do is say that I don't want any text decoration around this item. But what I do want is I want this to change color when I roll over it. And that's when the pseudo class comes in. So as a base menu item here sets all of the links within the menu to this orange red. If I change this to say a hover, whoops, then what we're going to get is anytime I've got the mouse over this, I'm just going to go over to a red. And still, oh, actually, you know what? I might have a change of heart here, and I might say, look, the text decoration is I actually want an underline when I've got the mouse over it. So we save that, we have a look at that over in the live view, and so when we roll the mouse over it, we're going to get that little rollover effect, and it turns that red color as well, which might be too subtle, but for the moment that's all we kind of need. And that's really what I was kind of working towards here, to show you that we can color in these different boxes different colors, we can change the font colors, and we can have conditions like this hover state, which basically means when the mouse is over it and you decide what you want. I mean, we can make that blue if you want, we can make that blue violet, sky blue, whatever you want. And when we go back to our live view, we can see that in action. And I don't really like the underline, so because I've already defined the underline as none, I don't need to define it again, and it'll just change that color to tell me, yes, you can go back to the home page if you click this Amazing Animals title here. So that's it for today. Hopefully you've learned a bit about colors, or you've explored some ideas around colors. You know where to look for extra information about those. Photoshop is my friend always. I find the color in here, I grab the value from there, and I move on. And Dreamweaver needs it to be embedded into your CSS. So when you're messing around with your CSS, you just need to put it in there. But when you use the name, you don't need the hash. But when you don't use the name, you need to put hash, and then find the actual value that you want to set in there. And Dreamweaver's got that little pop-up thing as well, if you just want to mess around and find it, exploring it that way. But if you already have a design or a photo or a picture, you can open it up in Photoshop, color pick the specific things, and use that instead. So hopefully that's been useful. Let me know in the comments what your favorite color is, either the hex color or put in one of these fancy names that exists. And we'll probably have an argument with everyone else what the favorite color should be, and that'll be a bit of fun. And tomorrow we'll just keep going with this stuff. So again, thanks for joining me, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Bye.